I'm using a worsted weight acrylic yarn in yellow and white to make the daisy squares and pink for the base of the hat. You'll also need a 5mm crochet hook, some scissors, a stitch marker or a bobby pin, and I'll show you how to weave in as you go, but you could also use a yarn needle or a smaller hook. So we're going to start by making our daisy squares first. So you're going to take your yellow yarn and make a magic circle. Once you have your magic circle, I chained 1 there. You're going to start with a chain of 2, so I'm going to chain 1 more. And this chain 2 does not count as your first double crochet. So to double crochet, you're going to yarn over, go through the magic ring, yarn over, pull through. You have 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops, and then yarn over and pull through the last 2 loops. And that's how you make a double crochet. So we're going to do that 11 more times to make a total of 12 double crochet. After you've made your first 12 double crochet, we're going to grab this yarn tail and pull it gently to close the circle. And now we're going to be slip stitching to the top of the first double crochet that you made. So you're going to push your hook through there, that first stitch, that little V. And then I'm also going to be starting to weave in this yarn tail at the bottom. So I'm just going to make sure it's on the top of my hook. And then you just yarn over and pull through. You have 2 loops on your hook. You're just going to pull the first loop through the second loop, like that. And then you're going to chain 1 to secure it. So I'm going to snip this off about the same amount as my first yarn tail. And then just pull that yarn through. And that's how we make the center of our daisy square. So to get started on the petals, you're going to grab your white yarn. And we're going to be attaching it to the very last double crochet that we made. So this over here is the slip stitch where that yarn's coming out of. We're going to go into the very last double crochet stitch to the right of it. See? And then you're just going to loop that yarn through. And I like to attach my yarn by just tying a knot at the top. And you want to leave enough yarn tail so that you can weave it in as you go. So first you're going to push your hook through that same stitch where we just attached the yarn. Yarn over and pull through, and then you're going to chain 2. For this first petal, you're going to start as if you were making a double crochet. So yarn over, push through that same stitch, yarn over, pull through. You have 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over and pull through the first 2 loops. And we're going to repeat that 2 more times. So we're not going to complete this double crochet. We're going to complete what we just did 2 more times. So yarn over, push through, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, and stop. You have 3 loops on your hook, and then we're going to do that 1 more time. Yarn over, push your hook through, yarn over, pull through, and yarn over, pull through the first 2. So now you have 4 loops on your hook. To complete this petal, you're going to yarn over and pull through all 4 loops. And then you're going to chain 2. And that's your very first petal. I'm also weaving in this yarn tail as I go. So for the next petal, we're gonna be going into that very first double crochet that we made. So we're gonna be going into here. Make sure you don't go into that slip stitch right there. It's very tempting because it looks like the next stitch, but it's not. So I'm gonna be weaving all 3 of these yarn tails in as I go. So I'm gonna yarn over, go through that very first double crochet stitch, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. You have 2 loops on your hook, and we're going to repeat that 3 more times. So every petal from here on out is going to be this pattern here. Yarn over, push your hook through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, and then 1 more time, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. So you should have 5 loops on your hook. You're going to yarn over and pull through all 5 loops for that second petal. And then to complete this, you're going to chain 2. And I'll show you one more time so you know what each petal is going to look like. I'm just tightening my yarn tails because I'm weaving in as I go. One more time for the petal. I'm going to yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, and then one more time, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. Make sure you have 5 loops on your hook, and then yarn over and pull through all 5 loops. And then to complete that, you just chain 2. Go ahead and do that for all 12 stitches all around. You should have 12 petals by the time you're done. Okay, so I just completed my last chain of 2. You should have 12 petals. To complete this row, we're going to slip stitch to the top of the very first double crochet that we made. So right there, just go under the little V and slip stitch. And that's how you do the petals. And now you're going to chain 1 to secure it. You're just going to snip it and then pull that yarn through. And those are your petals. So I weaved in my yarn tails for about 8 of the petals. So I like to snip my yarn tails as I go. I'm just going to pull gently on each one. And then I'm going to snip it. It doesn't have to be super close. Right there. And then you can pull on that gently to hide the little ends. There you go. So to complete our square, I'm going to grab my pink color. And we're going to be attaching this right between the first and last petal we made. So you're going to push your hook right through that chain space. And then I'm going to attach it the same way. I'm just going to pull it through and tie a little knot. So after your yarn is attached, we're going to start how we started the petals. You're just going to push your hook through, yarn over, pull through, and then we're going to start with a chain of 2. So we have our chain 2, and I'm going to be weaving in these yarn ends as I go too. So we're going to start with one of the sides. We're going to place 3 double crochet into that same space. So we're not going through the stitch, we're going through the space in between the petals. So after you've made your 3 double crochet, we're going to go into the next space between the petals and also make 3 double crochet, weaving in these ends as I go. So now we're going to work on our first corner. So same way, we're going to go into the space between the petals, but this time we're going to start with 2 triple crochet stitches or treble crochet. So to make a treble crochet, you just yarn over twice, push through that space, yarn over, pull through. You have 4 loops on your hook. You're going to yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops, yarn over, pull through the next 2 loops, and then you're going to yarn over and pull through the last 2 loops. And that's how you make a triple crochet. So I'll show you one more time. Yarn over twice, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through the first 2, yarn over, pull through the next 2, and then yarn over and pull through the last 2. So from here, we're going to chain 2, and we're going to work 2 more triple crochet into that very same space. And we're basically going to repeat that same pattern for all the sides. So we're going to do 3 double crochet, 3 double crochet, 2 triple crochet, chain 2, 2 triple crochet. I'll show you one more time. We're going to place 3 double crochet into the next space. Three double crochet into the next space, and then we've reached another corner space, so we're going to do 2 triple crochet, and then we're going to chain 2 and do 2 more triple crochet into that very same space. And then we're going to repeat that all the way around our daisy. So I just completed my very last corner space. So to complete this square, you're going to slip stitch into the top of the very first double crochet that you made. And then you're going to chain 1 to secure. Okay, so that's the very first daisy square done. The rest of the squares are made a little bit differently. So you're going to copy the same steps for the first 3 sides. And then once you reach your 3rd corner here, you're going to stop. And then we're going to be attaching the squares together as you complete the last side. I just completed my 3rd side here. So for the corner space, we're going to start with the 2 triple crochet. And then we're going to chain 2. And then from here, we're going to grab our other square. And we're going to start to attach this as we go. With your tail facing the top, we're going to be pushing our hook through this bottom left corner. We're going to grab that loop. I'm going to tighten it a little bit and pull it straight through that corner space. And then we're going to proceed with our next triple crochet into that same corner space. So it's the same pattern, but after you make your stitch, you're going to pull up that loop, and then you're going to go into the first triple crochet stitch on the first square. And then you're going to pull that loop through, and then you're going to make your next triple crochet. And then again, you're going to pull that loop up, and then you're going to go into the next stitch, which is the top of that second triple crochet. You're going to pull that loop through again. And then next you're going to go into the next space and you're going to complete the same pattern. So you're going to do your first double crochet and then pull up a loop, go into the next stitch and pull that loop through, and then do your next double crochet. So after each stitch, you're just going to pull up that loop, go through the next stitch on the first square and then pull it through and proceed. And you're going to do that all the way down until your squares are connected. Okay, so I just did my second triple crochet in the last corner, and I'm going to pull that loop through the last stitch on the first square. And then from here, we finish attaching our squares. So we're going to chain 2. And then we're going to finish our corner with 2 triple crochets. And then just like the last one, we're going to finish this by slip stitching into the top of the first double crochet. And then we're going to chain 1 and snip about the same length of yarn. That's just enough for us to weave in. And we're going to be repeating that pattern all the way until we've attached our 6 daisy squares. Okay, so I have my 6 daisy squares all attached. And before we get started on the base, I'm going to flip this over to the wrong side. And I'm going to show you guys how I like to weave in these ends here. So these are the tails that I started to weave in when I was doing my pink row. So I'm going to turn it over so that my ending tails, I'm going to turn it over so that my ending tails are on the bottom here. And if you look at the square, I weaved in these 2 tails on the first side. So they're under these 3 clusters of stitches. So I'm gonna take a 2.5 millimeter hook. You can do this with a yarn needle too. This is just how I like to weave in my ends. And I'm gonna go under that corner cluster of stitches. And I'm going to come out right before that last stitch. And then I'm going to take my 2 tails and wrap it around my hook. Actually, I'm going to do them one by one. So I'm going to take the pink one first and pull it through. And then I'm going to take my white one and also pull that through. And I'm weaving them in the opposite way. And this just helps to make them more secure, and it keeps my yarn tails from popping out. You can also just snip them right off the bat right there if you don't want to do this. I just find that it makes it more secure, especially when I'm making these for markets. So I'm going to go under the next cluster of stitches. And this time I'm going under all the stitches. And I'm going to wrap my yarn tails around and then pull them through. Now here is where I will just tug gently on the tails and snip off those ends. And like I said, it's completely optional, but I find that it makes it way more secure, especially if your tails tend to pop out. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that for all the rest of my squares. And at the end, the only tails that you should have are these ones at the top here. Okay, so I finished weaving in those ends. Now the only tails I have are my ending tails. And now we can get started on the base. So for the base of our hat, I'm going to be starting with a magic circle. I'm going to start with a chain 2. So I already chain 1 there. That's my chain 2. And then I'm going to place 12 double crochet into the circle. After you've placed 12 double crochet into the circle, you're going to pull on that yarn tail to close it up. And then you're going to slip stitch to the top of the first double crochet that you did. So I'm going to push my hook through. I'm going to start weaving in this yarn tail too as I go. So I'm going to leave that above my hook and complete my slip stitch. Now at this point, I'm going to chain 2 and we're going to start increasing. So we're going to do 12 increases all around. And each one of our rows is going to begin with this chain 2. We're going to place our first double crochet into that very same stitch where our chain 2 is coming out of. So that's 1 double crochet. And that's our second double crochet in the same stitch. And we're going to do that 12 times for all 12 stitches all around. You should have 24 stitches when you're done. So I've reached the end of round 2. I have 24 double crochet all the way around. Now to end every row, we're going to slip stitch into the top of our very first double crochet. So that's the end of round 2. At this point, I like to snip off the yarn tail that I weaved in. Now for round 3, we're going to start with a chain 2. And 1 double crochet in the same stitch. And then we're going to increase in the next stitch. So 2 double crochet in the second stitch. And we're going to repeat this pattern all the way around until we have a total of 36 stitches. So 1 double crochet, increase. So I've reached the end of round 3. I'm going to make my slip stitch. And then for round 4, we're going to chain 2. We're going to do 1 double crochet in the first stitch, 1 double crochet in the next stitch, and then an increase in the next stitch. So double crochet, increase. And we're going to repeat that all the way around for a total of 48 stitches. So once you've completed round 4, we're going to move on to round 5. We'll start with a chain of 2. We'll do 1 double crochet in the first stitch, 1 double crochet in the next stitch, 1 double crochet in the next stitch, and then an increase in the next stitch. And we're going to repeat this pattern all the way around until we have a total of 60 stitches. Okay, so I just completed round 5. You should have 60 stitches. So for round 6, we're going to chain 2 again. This will be our last row of increases. So we're going to start with 1 double crochet in the first stitch, 1 double crochet in the next stitch, 1 double crochet in the next stitch, 1 double crochet in the 4th stitch, and then we're going to increase in the 5th stitch. So 2 double crochet in that 5th stitch. And we're going to repeat this pattern all the way around for a total of 72 stitches. So once you finish round 6 and you have your 72 stitches in total, it's very important that your stitch count is exactly 72. I'm going to finish off that round, and then for round 7, we're going to chain 2, and we're just going to be placing 1 double crochet in each stitch all around. So no increasing, just 1 double crochet, starting in that very first stitch all the way around, and your stitch count should remain at 72. So I just completed round 7. I'm going to go ahead and make my slip stitch. And at this point, I'm going to chain 1 and pull up a loop. And we're going to start attaching our squares. So I'm going to place my hook to the side for a second. And this loop is so I don't lose my place. I'm going to grab my chain of squares. So you should have 6 daisy squares. You want to turn them so that your ending tails are all at the top, because we're going to be weaving these in as we attach our base to the squares. So it's on the right side. I'm laying it flat so that the right side faces towards me. When I say the right side, I mean the wrong side is where we weaved in all our ends. The right side is the side facing upwards. I'm going to grab my base, and to attach this, we're just going to flip it over to the wrong side. I'm going to get my loop back on my hook, tighten it up. Now we're going to be attaching the base onto the squares with single crochet stitches, and we're going to be working this way. So we're going to be working the opposite way that we just crocheted our base. So if you look here, this is it on the right side. This is the right side facing up. This is the very first stitch where we put our slip stitch. When we flip it over to the wrong side, our very first single crochet is going to go right here under the last double crochet that we stitched. So keeping my hook placed in there, I'm going to take my daisy square with the right sides facing each other. And we're going to be working, let me move this tail out of the way. We're going to place our first single crochet under that corner, under that first corner. So you place your hook under there, and then you make your first single crochet. And I would mark this off so that you remember where your first single crochet is at. Right there. Now to continue attaching our squares, you're going to place your hook in the next double crochet, and then we're going to place it in the first treble crochet stitch here, and then just single crochet those together. And we're going to continue like that all the way down the square. So I'm going into my next stitch, go under the next treble crochet stitch, and then make a single crochet. And now we're going to go under the next stitch. Now for this stitch here, make sure you don't go into that slip stitch there. You're going to make sure to go under that first double crochet stitch. And then just like the others, we're just going to make a single crochet. Now for the rest of this first daisy square, I'm going to be making sure to weave in that top end by just pinching it behind like we've been doing for the rest of them. So I'm going to go under the next stitch, under the next double crochet, make sure that tail's on the top of your hook, and then single crochet. And I'm going to be continuing that all the way down that first daisy square. Now we've reached our next corner space here. So I'm done weaving in that first tail, so I'm just gonna leave that out. And then I'm gonna go under my next stitch on the base, and then I'm just gonna place one single crochet in that corner stitch. So I'm gonna go through the corner and then single crochet that together. Now I'm gonna go under my next stitch on the base, and then we're going to go through the next corner space on the next daisy square and then complete that single crochet. And then we're going to continue this pattern all the way down until we've attached all of our daisy squares. So going into the next stitch, I'm going to go into that first treble crochet, and I'm going to do exactly what I did to attach the first square, to attach all of the squares, making sure to weave in those ends as I go. So I'm just finishing up with my last stitch. And I'm going to do my last single crochet in that last corner space and single crochet those together. So at this point, you're going to slip stitch into the very first single crochet that you made to end off this round. So I'm going to take out my stitch marker and just slip stitch into there. And we're going to chain one. And now I'm going to pull up a loop so you guys can see what it should look like. This is going to be the inside of our hat. It should look like this. And now we have to connect these squares together. And we're going to do that with single crochet stitches, just like we've been doing all the way around. So we've chained one. Now we're going to place one single crochet into the first corner spaces. So that's my first corner space, and I'm also going to be going into this corner space. See, make sure your hook is under both corner spaces and then complete your first single crochet. And then I'm going to be making sure to pinch the squares together so I can go under both stitches. So I'm going to go under the first treble crochet on both squares and single crochet those together. And then I'm going to go under the next treble crochet stitch on both squares and single crochet those together. And I'm going to do that for all the stitches down the squares. Once you've done that for all the stitches down the squares, you should just be left with that last corner space. And you're just going to do one single crochet in those corner spaces. And your squares should be attached. Now from here, we're just going to chain one, and I'm going to pull up a loop so I don't lose my place. And before we flip this inside out, I'm just going to trim these tails that I weaved in as we attach the squares. So I'm just going to pull slightly and snip. And then when you stretch it back, they should be hidden under those stitches. So I'm going to do that for all my squares, and then I'll show you how to do the next row. So now that I have no more tails, I'm going to flip my hat so that the right side is facing outwards, and this is what the top of our hat is going to look like. So I'm going to flip it over so that it's a little bowl. I'm going to take that loop and put it back on my hook. So for this next round, we're just going to place single crochet across the brim of the hat. So in each corner space, we have a corner space to start off, we're going to place 2 single crochet stitches. So you can just put your hook right through that space and make 2 single crochet. And if it helps, you can mark that first single crochet. And then we're going to place 1 single crochet in each stitch, starting with that first treble crochet stitch, just 1 single crochet. So I've reached my next corner spaces. So I'm going to place 2 single crochet in the first corner space on that first square, and then I'm going to go directly into the next corner space on the next square and place another 2 single crochet. And then I'm going to proceed in the next stitch with 1 single crochet, and we're going to be repeating that pattern all the way around the brim. So I just completed my last 2 single crochet in my last corner space. To end this off, I'm going to take out my stitch marker, and then I'm going to place a slip stitch in the front loop only of that first single crochet that we made. So if you look here, those are both of our loops where we normally slip stitch. I'm just going to be going in the front loop right there and making my slip stitch. And I'm doing this because for this round of the brim, we're going to be working in the front loops only of the next few stitches. So at this point, we're going to start off our next row with a chain of 2. And then I'm going to be placing 1 double crochet in that front loop where we just slip stitched into. I'm going to place 1 double crochet in the front loop of the next stitch. And then I'm going to be placing 2 double crochet in the front loop of the next stitch. So that's 1 double crochet. And then there's your second double crochet. And we're going to be repeating this pattern all the way around the brim. So 1 double crochet, 1 double crochet, and then an increase. And you're going to make sure you're working into that front loop only of the stitch. So I just finished my last increase. So now to finish off this row, I'm going to make a slip stitch as usual. And now for this next row, we're going to continue increasing for the brim. We're going to start off with a chain of 2. And we're going to be working into both loops this time. So we're going to start with 1 double crochet in the first stitch, 1 double crochet in the next stitch, 1 double crochet in the third stitch, and then we're going to increase in the fourth stitch. So 3 double crochet and then an increase. And then we're going to repeat this pattern all the way around our brim. Okay, so I just completed that row. I just did my slip stitch. That's going to be my last increase row for the brim. If you want it more curly, you can add more increases. If you want it less curly, you can add less increases. At this point, I'm going to chain 2, and then I'm just going to place 1 double crochet in each stitch all the way around my brim. Okay, so I just completed that row of just 1 double crochet in each stitch. If you'd like your brim to be larger, you can add another row of double crochet. I like it like this, so I'm just gonna do my slip stitch to finish off my row. And then I like to finish off all of my hats with a row of single crochet. So I'm just gonna chain 1 here. and put my first single crochet in that first stitch, and then just do 1 single crochet in each stitch all around to finish off my hat. So I reached the end of my single crochet row. I just did my last single crochet in that last stitch. So to finish off the hat, we're gonna slip stitch into the very first single crochet, and then we're gonna chain 1, and then we can snip the yarn. And now, since we weaved in our ends as we went along, the only thing we have to weave in is that end that we just snipped. So that's it for this tutorial. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope it wasn't too confusing. If you do make this hat, please don't forget to tag me on Instagram. I would love to see it. And let me know what kind of things you guys would like to see me crochet in the comments. And I'll see you guys in the next tutorial. Bye!